Hi, I'm Kenny Klaus, and this is State 48 Homeowner.
And welcome to the State 48 Homeowner Podcast on this Halloween weekend, where today we're talking about I'm scared to buy a home. When should I start?
It's not scary.
It's not scary. Welcome, Rob Martin from the Klaus team. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, okay, you're trying to scare people, but no, it can be daunting, but that's why you get a good agent.
Yeah.
But, you know, buying is not for everyone. Let's be honest.
No, and some people, renting works out great for a lot of people. There's a lot of reasons why to stay renting. I mean, if you are going to be fluid in where you're living, you want that flexibility to just say, hey, it's the end of this year, I just want to move to a different city. That works out well too. You got lower upfront costs.
Yes.
Sometimes not significantly though. Some of the folks that end up buying are really not putting much different down than what people would be doing with the first and last month in security deposit.
So when it comes down to finances, I mean, it's multifaceted. We could look at this in a multitude of ways, but when you're looking at renting, I mean, you know what your rent is going to be for the term of your lease. At that, it can go up. You're not paying the maintenance. That's a big thing. Yes, you're paying first month, last month, security deposit, and there's rules. There's legal rules of how much they can actually charge you for that too, and a lot of people don't realize that. When I was a weatherman, I used to move every 2 years. Buying was not a smart thing for me. But when you sit down, if you're going to be in the same spot for a long time, it's something you should seriously consider. Yes, there's a lot of ins and outs of it that, you might not understand, but that's where you get the right representation in a realtor that's going to tell you, it might not be for you, or this is what you should be doing. You do have a lot of flexibility and with it when you're renting, but you're also going to be looking at every month, at the end of every lease, your prices are generally going to be going up. I mean, if you look, it might not be, year to year, but if you look at a 5-year period, historically, you're looking at rents are going to be going up.
Yeah. Yeah. Renting versus homeownership, owning. One of the things that we looked at was just the stability of that monthly housing payment. In different times of the market, rents can be more than a mortgage payment. At other times in the market, rents could be less. When we looked at the real estate crash years ago, that was one of the reasons why, is because rents just kind of fell.
Yep.
And people were realizing, wow, I could actually rent the house across the street for half of what I'm paying for in my mortgage.
Now, the one thing to look at with that, though, is when you sign up for a 30-year fixed mortgage, you know what your payment's going to be for the next 30 years. Now, if we see like right now, interest rates are sky high. Over history, they're not. They're actually about average. But for the most recent, say, 10 years, that we're looking at high interest rates. You can refinance and lower that at some point, but that's at your choosing.
Yeah, you can lower now if you're going to do a cash out refi or something. You might raise your mortgage payment at some point, but in a lot of cases when you're refinancing, it's going to be to get a lower interest rate, and you'll actually lower it. But let's just say it stays the same. So we looked at a study in Augusta Ranch, which is a neighborhood in East Mesa, and this was back in 2015. We looked back over 15 years what rent versus buy would be if somebody got that same house and stayed there the whole time. So if in that same house, somebody that bought it in 2000 was paying about $895, somewhere in that realm, and rents were pretty similar, about that same thing. So about $800 to $900 a month. And then we fast forward 15 years to 2015, and this is 8 years ago.
Yep.
And that same person, if they were staying in that house, they were still paying between $800 and $900 a month.
But what were the rents?
They were $1,700 to $1,800. Now,
that's a big difference.
Yes, but let's talk about what it is now, or mid to high 2000s a month for that same property, and it's going to keep going up. Where that person that is staying in the home is going to enjoy that. Now, granted, 5 to 7 years is the average that people will stay in a home. But you've locked in that payment for that time. And for folks like myself that have been in a home longer than that, we've locked in that payment for a long time.
Now, when you go buy a house, there's a document that we legally have to have you sign. It's basically saying we don't have a crystal ball. It's saying that, the housing market, will go up and down. But that being said, the goal here is if you're there for that 5 years, and longer, you're going to be potentially building equity there.
Yeah.
You're going to be appreciation on the home. And that's one of the greatest ways to build wealth. It's not like, most of us, including most of us real estate agents, we have a job to do and we get paid for that job. It's not like we're going out and buying $1 million houses in most cases.
Yes.
We're working just like everybody else. And the way to make your net worth that much bigger is through a home ownership, because my example is when we bought our first house in West Mesa, $250,000 back in 2016, 2,000 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1970s home, had a pool. And in 6 years of ownership, we were able to sell it for twice as much money. And that allowed us a lot of, it didn't change our lifestyle. My wife and I, we still, operate within our budget. However, the next home that we bought, I never thought, I was like, wow, we are building, we bought this nice house. And the money that we took from that house, that afforded us that new house. And then we only ended up using half of the proceeds on the new house, and we invested the other half with our financial planner. And that right there jump-started our family nest egg.
Yeah.
And that was the big eye-opening moment for me. And this was, that was before I was in real estate when we bought that house. So now I even know the ins and outs even more. And so those are some huge, huge benefits that I found with it. Now, if you bought at the top of the market and sold at the bottom, okay, different story. That is a possibility.
Yes, but real estate is a long-term investment game for the people that had lost significant amounts in the real estate crash. If they would have stayed in those homes, in
they'd
some
be sitting
cases,
pretty.
3 times the price, sometimes even more of what it was at the top of the market.
Now, taxes come into play too. A lot of people, think, I have to pay my, property taxes. Well, one thing I noticed in Arizona, property taxes are relatively inexpensive compared to a lot of places. And it's not like an extra, bill. It's built into my mortgage, into my escrow. Yeah. So it's not like I'm every year going, oh man, I'm going to owe, $3,000, $5,000 for my taxes. No, it's not like that. It's built into my mortgage payment. And so it's not a huge sticker shock to me.
And when we think about some of the extra costs we've got interest.
So that's a benefit. That is right there. You get every year, you're going to get a statement, and you can put that into your tax forms, and you get a tax break because of that interest that you're paying for your mortgage.
And so for renters, they don't get the interest deduction.
They don't get the increase in property value, appreciation.
But they're still paying the interest.
Yes, this is a key thing. Okay, I get what you're saying here. Let me explain that. You're basically paying the mortgage for somebody else.
Yes.
So the person that owns the house or the apartment, whatever, they have to pay the taxes on the property. They have to pay that maintenance, the upkeep.
The property taxes, the upkeep, the interest, everything, and they are enjoying
the benefits.
Well, not only that, but cash flow. Yep. So you're actually paying a little bit more than what they're paying.
It's a business. They got to make money.
Nobody is in housing because I want to provide somebody with housing. Tenants can be a big headache. Vacancies can be crazy. Repairs, there's a ton of liability involved. And so that has to be compensated for.
And that's through your rent that you're paying. And you're not getting the tax benefits. You're not getting the potential equity or the appreciation of the home.
Yeah, and it's an old phrase. We use it all the time that if you're renting, you're paying your landlord's mortgage. It's true, though. You're paying their mortgage. You're paying their so a monthly mortgage payment, you mentioned it already. It's going to include those taxes, insurance. It's called a pity payment. Not because we pity you for having to pay it, but it's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. The principal and interest is paid to the bank, and then they actually have an escrow account, not the same escrow account that you use when you're closing, but an escrow account that's going to hold those taxes and insurance payments, and then they're going to pay those on your behalf because they don't want you to become behind on your taxes because that'll create a lien. They don't want you to not pay your insurance because the loan is secured by that house being in good shape, and if you have a fire, they want to make sure you have insurance. Exactly. So they're going to cover all that stuff. And so if you are renting, you're paying all of that stuff for your landlord.
And then they still need to make a profit on top of it.
And they're getting equity.
Yep, exactly. So there's also another thing is you got to think about, does it make sense for you in your lifestyle and also emotionally? Now, I can tell you that one big thing, like when we bought our first house, and our second house for that matter, you're walking in there and saying, I own this thing. And that's a cool feeling. That's an empowering thing. Now, it is daunting. It's like, oh, man, I own this. That's a lot of responsibility. Well, it's very manageable. It's something that you think about. It's like, weigh the pros and cons. When you go into an apartment, you might be able to paint a room, do some funky color from it, but you got to paint it back before you turn the keys back in. At a house, you can do whatever you want in the inside. I mean, now if you have an HOA, there's certain things you can and can't do outside of the home, but it's yours to do what you want, to tailor it to your lifestyle. Now, if you're
I can tell you that it's not always so I've sold a couple houses. The first house I bought, I'd always lived in rentals or somebody else's house, and the walls were always white. And I was so excited to not paint white. I was moving to Arizona. It's the Southwest. Yeah, it was like a yellowish orange that I threw on the walls. And when I went to sell it, my agent's like, we're gonna
gotta change that.
Gonna need to paint.
Cool.
And then the second house. My wife at the time, she's like, hey, let's do this crown molding. Let's make it red because we have all this stuff. And so I was proud. I did the crown molding myself, all that stuff. And it was red, and we listed it. And every agent in their office goes, so what's with the red crown molding?
And something.
But it was ours. It was what we wanted. It was how we wanted it to be.
Something that I ended up having fun with was all these little projects. Now it's a lot easier because YouTube is a homeowner's friend. Because there's simple things that people think, oh, I need to pay somebody to come do this. No, a lot of it you can do yourself, and
just don't watch 5-minute crafts and think that that's the way to do it.
Well, the general idea maybe, but getting in and doing certain things, it's like if you don't know how to do it, it's something. A quick Google search, and you'll find that. Wait, this is actually not that difficult. No. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to retile your whole shower and it's going to come out beautiful, looking like you're at a resort. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that you can. It's simple internet search, and you get to make it your own after that. Yeah. And you also get to, hey, take the ownership of, I did this project myself.
You get to establish roots. Your kids can stay going to the same school and hang out with
friends.
The same kids and build relationships. Your neighbors, you can have great, solid relationships with them. I grew up in a neighborhood. My parents still live in the house that they bought before I was born. And we had incredible neighbors. We had keys to each other's houses. When they'd go on vacation, we'd go, feed their pets and bring the mail in, make sure the yards were watered and all those kinds of things. You can build that. And I've got neighbors that, we've gone to a new, they know how to get in my house. They know the codes and all that, the keys and all that kind of stuff. And if I'm gone, I've had it where, because I get Amazon delivered in the garage, but sometimes it goes on the front porch. I can just text them, hey, this came in. Can you go throw it in my garage?
Or bring my trash can in when you're on vacation so you don't get that HOA violation. And not to say that you won't have some good neighbors if you're renting, but at the same time, if you're there for years, years and years and years, you're going to have better relationships and deeper relationships with people. Now, the timing of it is a big thing. Is this now, should I buy now or should I wait later? Well, you can always go down that rabbit hole of what's the economy going to do. That's going to be, have fun with that rabbit hole. But you got to sit there and look at your personal, what are your needs? And one is, do you have enough money saved up? Well, there's a lot of great programs out there that, I've gotten people into homes with literally $1,500 is all, an inspection appraisal. And then there's these loan programs that can help with that. Yeah. And then the other thing to think about if you're moving out of state, you're coming to Arizona and you live in somewhere else and you don't know what the neighborhood you want to be in yet. We have some awesome programs where you can actually go and lease to own, where you can test out a neighborhood, where, we get you qualified with, an outside company that then we can go shopping for the home, and you sign up a lease with the company that ends up buying the home that you picked out, and you pay them for your monthly.
And everything's all ironed out so that you know exactly what you'd be buying the house for at the end of year 3, 4, 5.
So there's lots of options if you have that inkling that you want to, but you're not 100% sure if it makes sense yet, or you want to make sure you save up the down payment. And yes, saving up a down payment is a big thing. It is not easy to do, but there are options out there. One, but one of the options is wait another year and save up.
Yeah, and people always say, well, let's try and time the market, which is great. Honestly, if we could time the market, we'd be timing the market.
I would be buying houses myself.
Yeah. But real estate is a long-term investment. And yes, we have some spikes upward. We have spikes downward. But as long as we have been tracking home data in the United States, we have seen a 3.8 to 4% annual increase in home value year over year consistently. We'll have up and down, but that trend line stays consistent.
And it's just like any investments or your retirement. It's the same thing. It's not a day-to-day thing. It is a year's time frame is what we're looking at, and that's if you're going to be in a place for years, this is where you need to seriously think about it.
And what we want to look at, people go, well, I think I'd see more of than a 4% annual change in this investment or that investment. But understand that you're replacing rent with an investment. You already are going to have housing costs.
Yep.
And so you are now taking your housing costs and making that an investment with dividends, multiple dividends.
Yep.
We've talked about some of those that, some of them are emotional, some of them are financial, but we're going to see dividends from that over time. And regardless, we're still making that or a similar payment to
you still got to live somewhere.
Housing, and you have to live somewhere.
Yep.
This video is brought to you by Klaus Team Real Estate Solutions. The Klaus Team is different. With the Klaus Team, you have someone on your side. Where you live and make memories is important. We have more unique strategies than anyone else to help you accomplish what matters most to you. We can help you with traditional real estate as well as other options such as our lease purchase programs. We can help you buy first then sell, and we can bring you instant offers. We're here to help our neighbors achieve the American dream and help them build wealth through home ownership. For more info or to start your home search, visit us online at klausteam.com.
And, that's one of the big roadblocks I run into when I'm talking to a first-time buyer, and it's like, okay, they don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. And this is something that this is where it kind of people, they see a roadblock and they just shut down. But that's where it doesn't have to be the case. Mm-hmm. I get phone calls all the time, and it's like, yes, my ultimate goal is I want to sell houses. That's the business I'm in. Mm-hmm. But I've also told clients, this is not right for you right now. And it comes down to, does it make sense? Mm-hmm. And that roadblock that you're seeing, if it makes sense for you, but these roadblocks are stopping, that's where, consulting with a good realtor is going to be key to you mm-hmm. and your success with this. I think one of the big things that it's a free conversation to start this. Yeah. And it could be calling a real estate agent, but it also could be calling your bank. Yes, I have a great list of lenders that I've worked with in the past. I don't get kickbacks or anything mm-hmm. like that, but I do have lenders that I trust more than others. It's a free conversation to talk with them. Another thing I suggest is you already have a bank account somewhere. See if they have a mortgage department. Most mm-hmm. banks do. And it's a place that a company you're already familiar with, comfortable with. Ask the simple question, could I be qualified? Mm-hmm. And it's a free conversation to ask. It's a very simple thing to do, and you might be surprised that, wait, I can afford this? This could be mine?
Yeah. I like that as a first step for multiple reasons. One, it can chart a course
yep.
where you may not be ready now, but we can find out the things that we need to do to get ready. Or you may find that you're ready at a certain level, but you can find things to get you to the next level. The other piece that I really like about it is when you find out what you're qualified for on a monthly payment, you get to find out what your price point is. I always prefer that people know that before they go house hunting.
It's incredibly frustrating when, and it's also, I mean, it really sucks the fun out of it, and it kind of, in some way, demoralizing. It's like, hey, you look at these houses online, and you're like, oh, I want this. This is awesome. Oh yeah, and then you realize, oh wait, that's way out above my price point. Or it could be the other saying, hey, this is all I think I can afford, but in reality, you could afford something different. So having a target up front it sets the expectations through the whole process, so there's no surprises, either good or bad.
And I've seen people just become disillusioned, and pull themselves out of homeownership for a period because they fell in love with a certain price point and then realize they can't get that. And then when they bring themselves back into the home search, the market's appreciated, and so now we've taken another.
And that's a huge thing that's happened in Arizona. I mean, we've seen the prices increase, dramatically over the past 3-4 years. Obviously during the pandemic, we saw some disruptions, some corrections in the market. But if you look at, you're talking about that 3-4%, that's average over long term. But, we've seen some pretty significant swings, in the last few years,
Yeah, when we look at price per square foot in Phoenix Metro, we saw the bottom of the market at the end of 2022, and since then we've been recovering in price. We did see prices go down. Now we're seeing them come back up, and that's the game of real estate. Over time, they're going to climb, and the longer that you wait and you're still making the same amount of money, your buying power is just going to diminish.
And what we're seeing with the market now is prices are staying relatively high because we have a low inventory, and that's protecting that price. And if they're high and they keep going up higher, you might get priced out, and that's something to think about too. If right now is the time to buy or not, it's like, okay, some people, this might be the time to have to get in because you might get priced out. And in some markets, it's already like that. I mean, I have cousins in Oregon that, they were able to purchase, 3-4 years ago. Now they can't because, the way that the prices have increased in some markets, that now what they make is not enough to cover.
So how scary is it to start the process? Do I need to provide you with the last 7 years of my taxes?
It's not scary at all. And this is one reason why I also say starting the conversation with a bank that you're comfortable with is a great place, because a lot of times they have all the information they need right there. But yes, they're going to do a background check on you, or not a background, I'm sorry. Credit check on you. And yes, people say, oh, it's going to lower my score, things like that. Yes, it can. But if the goal is to buy a home, then it's kind of a necessary, it's not scary. It's not a bad thing.
And as I understand inquiries, it's when you're getting an inquiry from the furniture store, and you're getting an inquiry from the auto dealership, and you're getting an inquiry from the home lender, and then you're getting a credit from credit cards. That's what is going to lower your score. The stuff that you're going to need, if you've been getting paid, you generally get your W-2 or your pay stubs.
Yep.
You get those through email. Everything that you need from your bank, you can get by logging in real quick, download a couple statements, and then if you have electronic copies of the last time you filed your taxes.
Exactly.
That's pretty much what you're going to need
to
get
what it
a
is.
Solid pre-qualification.
And another thing to think about is starting this process first is that if there's anything that you need to work on, we'll find it up front. And it's just it's one of those things that people don't talk to their neighbors, but most people have something that they could do on their credit to make it be better. And a lot of people look at this, they don't know where to even start. It could be student loans, it could be a multitude of different things. And the big thing they're going to be looking at debt to income ratio.
Yep.
And with that, you want to know this up front, because if you get down this process, you're going to buy a house, and then all of a sudden you have a problem, then you've already gotten over that that first hurdle of like, I want to do this, I want to commit to it. Whereas if you started with that up front, then you get that out of the way. And I've had clients I've worked with for over a year that say they want to do this, but there was a blip on their credit that they need to get sorted out. They didn't even know about it in some cases. And by going through this process, they figured it out. And the awesome thing working with lenders is that they will tell you, like, okay, this is the problem. This is how you will solve it.
And what's great about the lenders is the stuff that you're giving them is private. You're not sending it to Rob or myself.
No.
You're sending it to the lender. Your lender is not going to come to us and say, hey, you know, Bill makes $78,000 a year, and he has this, that, and the other that he's paying for. And do you know what his car payment is on his Maserati? You won't even believe it. No, they don't.
It's all
they
separate.
Just go, hey, I met with the client. Everything's looking good. I should have a pre-qualification for you. It looks like the price point is going to be in the neighborhood of about $600,000.
Exactly.
That's what it looks like. It's we're not going to find all your dirty laundry.
I'm not coming over to your house to look through your bank accounts. Nothing like that.
So yeah, it's private. The lender is going to take care of all that kind of stuff.
And they operate as a bank. I mean, that's just...
Now, what we may find out is a range of the credit score, because that will dictate, different buying programs. They might say, hey, just so you know, their credit score is above this point, and so they're actually eligible for this program. That's
something that, I have asked that question to my clients before. It's like, just so I have an idea of which direction we need to go. And it's like, hey, do you have any idea where your credit score is? I don't ask you what your credit number is. I say, do you have any idea? And people generally, because you open up your credit card statement, and most credit card companies have a button you can click, and it says, hey, here's your Experian or your, one of those. You should have a pretty good idea where you're at. You will notice differences. Credit Karma versus a FICO score is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, the bank I'm at, they've got a pretty good, and their number seems to match whenever I go and actually apply for credit and find out their number is pretty. Credit Karma is lower, and so it's kind of nice when you see a bump in Credit Karma. You're like, oh, I'm actually doing pretty good. But it's a great tool. It lets you know some things, and it'll clue you in if there's things on your credit that you didn't know were there. Some of the things that will come up is medical. A lot of credit reports that you might get online won't include some medical collections that you'll find out when you're going in for a home loan, and it's one of those things that your lender can help you deal with that stuff too. It's not that scary. You might have some medical stuff on there. I remember my daughter walked into an end cap at Old Navy when she was 2 and had to get stitches on her forehead. And we were buying a home years later, and the doctor that we never saw submitted a bill and just put it into collections. We never got anything from a collection agency. We just realized we had a $1,200 bill on there. We called up the collection agency and said, hey, we'll give you $400 if you make it if you pull it away. All right, good. And
done.
So it was gone. It's off the credit and smooth sailing moving forward.
And that's one of those things that you learn because you were preparing to buy a home, and that's
and the lender said, hey, here's who to call. Here's what you do, and taking those steps earlier on in the process just allows you a lot more flexibility to increase your buying power. To bring that interest rate lower. The bigger risk you are, the bigger the interest rate's going to be. The lower the risk you are, the lower the rate's going to be.
And the other thing I would advise, so if you talk to a lender, you get through those hurdles and, okay, I'm going to do this. I got the pre-qualification form. Don't go out and buy a boat. Don't, it's like, don't do anything. Don't do anything. Don't use your credit. It's like, hey, they're having a sale down at the furniture store. I'm going to get new couches or new fridge or something for the new house.
They're not going to fit in the house anyway. So.
Wait until...
You're going to go buy a left sectional.
For the right.
And then you're going to buy a house that it needs to be in the right position.
So multiple reasons, but that's the big thing. Don't rock the boat. And even if you're in fantastic credit shape, still don't rock the boat. Once you get it and get the house, then we worry about the other stuff.
But it's one of the biggest things that you can do as far as net worth. When we look at people with that have been renters, their net worth is in the thousands. And people that own, the average net worth is in the hundreds of thousands. It makes a huge difference.
I know math is a scary thing, but it's calculating this out, it's pretty simple. You sit there, you know how much money you make a year, and you can calculate, say 20 years, what you're going to, what you made over those 20 years. Well, if you look at, so that number is going to be whatever it is. But then you look at the value of a home and the power, because also you can use that home as a financial tool for getting loans for other things. If you want to start a business, if you want to, it's an avenue, because it is basically, this house is a sitting asset that you can use to leverage it to do other things that, you want in your life. It could be if you want to put in a pool, but it could be something as big as, hey, I have this grand idea. I want to work, work for myself. This could allow you to do it.
Yep. So what is the first step that people should be taking?
Talk to a lender and a realtor. And
so just going to klausteam.com or calling us at 480-354-7344 and start the conversation.
And it's as simple as a conversation. It's easy. It's a simple conversation, and you have nothing to lose to have a conversation. At the end, might not be the right decision for you to buy right now, but at the end of the day, if it is, you're going to be setting yourself up.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for spending time with us this week at State 48 Homeowner, the ins and outs of owning an Arizona home. You can connect with us for more information, submit topics you'd like us to discuss further, and you can see relevant videos, give us feedback, answer your real estate questions, and more at state48homeowner.com.